Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Rahmat. I'm for the fourth group, and we will explain about the point of view based on a short story titled Five Little Pigs. Okay, meets the people. There is Najla, Anin, Irma, Mazida, and me in the fourth group. The first material will be the definition of POV, point of view, is an important aspect of narrative writing, referring to the author's relationship with their fictional work and the position from which the story is told. The next is description of perspective in literature. So this description is from Todorov. Is explained about history in description of perspective. The first category concerns the quality of information received. This information may be either objective, a perception informs us about what is perceived, or subjective, a perception informs us about the perceiver. The second category concerns the quantity of information the readers take of knowledge from the viewpoint of the extent. The extent means the angle of vision, internal vision from the inside is opposed to external vision from outside. Similarly, G. Genet writes about inner and outer points of view. Okay, there is the third category concerns the opposition between unicity and multiplicity. On the one hand, one character or all the characters may produce the narrative. Consistency and variability on the other. That means an international vision can be applied to a character throughout the narrative or during only one of its parts. The fourth category concerns ignorance and illusion, or if our information about the fictive universe can be absent or present, and in case it is present, can be true or false. Imperfect vision may be accompanied by the character's mistake, or it may be a matter of deliberate dissimulation. The fifth category concerns the judgment brought to bear on the event represented. The description of the story can involve a moral evolution, but not always. Okay, the next slide will be explained by Najla.
Okay, the next material is description of perspective in literature, more complex. The first is omniscience narrative. There are two types. The first, with authorial instructions. The narrator provides additional commentary or insight into the story. Example, Tom Jones by Fielding. Second is natural omniscience. The narrator presents the story without personal commentary. Example, Counterpoint by Huxley. Second, first-person narrative. Also two types. The first is I as a witness. The narrator serves as a witness to events. Example, The Great Gatsby by Fitzgerald. And the second is protagonist. The narrator is the main character experiencing the events. Example, Great Expectation by Dickens. And the third is selective omniscience narrative. Includes two types. The first is multiple selective omniscience. The narrator has insight into multiple characters, thoughts, and feelings. Example, To the Lake House by Wolf. And number two, single selective omniscience. The narrator has insight into only one character's thoughts and feelings. Example, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by Joyce. And number four, objective narrator again has two types. The first, dramatic mode and camera. Deductive Dramatic mode is the narrator remains the detective and observes characters' action without delving into their thought. Example, Hemingway's Hills like with elephants. And camera, the narrator functions as a natural observer, similar to a camera recording events. Example, is a watch and goodbye the brilliance.
Okay, the next material is the how what is narrator will be explained by Mazida.
The next is narrator. The narrator plays a key role by making judgments, revealing or concealing characters' thoughts, and choosing between direct and transposed discourse. And the subject of the speech act is called a narrator. And the one who is the listener recipient of the story told by the narrator is narratee. The narratee is the narrator's partner, the one whom the discourse author is addressed is called narratee.
Okay, the next material will be tone and will be delivered by Irma.
Okay, I want to tell you about tone. The importance of tone in point of view. Tone is like a nuance or atmosphere that arises from the way the story is told. It includes the author's feeling and views about the story. Variety of tone in narrative. Tone can be different, such as carefully, friendly, serious, or relaxed. And then the example of playing tone in Jimike's shopping story. The tone is playful or funny. The author uses a hilarious story to convey ideas. And then the next, irony. Irony is like when we say one thing but actually mean something else. Some famous writers use the technique to convey messenger or humor. The next is form of irony. There is irony of word. It means saying the opposite of what is meant. And then irony of situation is when something happened the opposite of what was expected. It helps make a story interesting and funny. And then example of verbal irony, when something say, "Wow, that's very clever," to a stranger even though they know it's a sarcasm. And then continuing of irony. Continuous irony is when the whole story has an ironic feel. So, not only certain words, but the whole story feels satirical or contrary to expectation. And the next types of irony, situational, attitudinal, and dramatic. Situational irony is when something happens that is not as expected. And then there is also what is called attitudinal and dramatic irony, but the essence is the same, to make the story interesting with surprise. And the next, satire and irony. Irony is a tool often used in satire. Satire is like criticism that uses satire to insinuate stupidity or bad behavior. And then satire rule. A satirist is a writer who likes to highlight stupidity or weakness. They want to make a reader think while laughing. And then use of sarcasm in satire. Sarcasm is like ridicule or sarcasm conveyed in a critical tone. In satire, it is used to critical something in a pleasant but sharp way.
Okay, thank you. And the next material will be explained by Ani.
Okay, you can read this story first. So we took the story called Five Little Pigs by Joseph Martin Corain to be our discussion material. Next, the question. The first question is, who is narrator of the story? The narrator of the story is an unnamed third person. And the two questions is how many characters produce the narrative. The story is told from single narrative point of view, so only one character produces the narrative. And the third, what is the relationship between the narrator and the protagonist? The narrator has no direct relationship with the protagonist as they are not characters in their story. And the fourth, who is the narratee in the work, if any? The narratee is a reader or listener of the story. The fifth, does knowledge we receive inform us about what is perceived or about the perceiver? Yes, the knowledge that we receive tell us about what is felt, what the action and behaviors of the five little pigs. And the sixth, is the narrative conducted in the first person or in the third person? The answer is uses a third person point of view because the narrator observes and tells events from the outside. Okay, the next slide. The 7 questions. Does the narrator convey his attitude to the subject directly or indirectly? The narrator conveys his attitude indirectly through the action and consequences. And the 8th question, is the narrator's vision internal or external? The narrator's vision is external because the story refers to the perspective that is focused on the external world and events happening around the character. It describes the physical surroundings, action of other characters, and events in the story. And the 9 questions, is this point of view omniscient, limited omniscient, or objective? The point of view appears to be omniscient because the narrator knows all the event and the characters, but doesn't feel their emotional. And next question is, can you trust the narrator? Is the narrator's vision perfect? So the answer is narrators are trustworthy because they present the story without bias or unreliability. The narrator's vision is imperfect because they don't know everything about the characters, thoughts, and feelings. And the next question, what image do you have of the narrator at the beginning of the work? Later on, the answer is the narrator's image remains consistent throughout of the story. He is a neutral external observer. The next question, what is gained by this point of view? What effect does it have on the characters, that the theme, the setting, and the language? The answer is the point of view allows for an impartial account of events. It influences character, settings, and language by providing a straightforward and objective perspective. And the last question is, does it change the meaning of the work? The answer is point of view doesn't change the meaning of the word, it just gives a different perspective. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay guys, maybe that is all from my group. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.